I'm sorry about the abrupt end of that last video there. I finished the problem and then the video just stopped. That was an accident. So let's continue on here. Just to review this last example, we did another multiplication. And our answer was 15 plus J9. So the last arithmetic operation we have to talk about here with rectangular format is division. I don't want to say it's hard, but I'll say this is somewhat tedious to do by hand. And there's two really situations we need to look at when we're dividing by complex numbers. So if we're dividing by purely imaginary. So what this means is that what we're dividing by is just j times something. There's no real part. The real part is 0. So let's look at an example here for this. This actually is really easy to do, divide by purely imaginary. So let's suppose we have 12 plus j6, and we're dividing this by j3. So what I want to emphasize here, this is purely imaginary. And what we actually do here is we multiply the top and the bottom by j. So you might say, well, wait, we're doing division. Well, when we're doing division here, what we're honestly going to be doing is a lot of multiplication. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by j. And if I do that, the numerator becomes j12 plus j squared 6, and the denominator becomes j squared 3. Now, remembering our negatives, we get j12 minus 6 over negative 3. And so now if we just simplify this here, we can write this as j12 over negative 3 minus 6 over negative 3, which 12 divided by negative 3 would be negative j4. Negative 6 divided by negative 3 would be plus 2. And then we should probably write our answer in the standard form, which is the real part first and the imaginary part second, 2 minus j4. So let's look at another one that's just purely imaginary. So we're going to have negative 5 plus j25 over minus j5. Okay, so lots of things going on here, but we're going to approach this the same way, and we're just going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by j. And this gets us negative j5 plus j squared 25. Forgot the square there. I said it, but I forgot to write it down. J squared 25 over negative j squared 5. Again, let's simplify these numbers out. So I have negative j5. J squared is negative, so that'd be minus 25 over j squared is negative, so this would be positive 5. which we can write as negative j5 over 5 minus 25 over 5, and get negative j minus 5 or negative 5 minus j. Now let me pause this for a second and show you doing this computation using a calculator. So this website here is, it's a free website, and it will do some complex numbers for us, but remember, when we are doing the complex numbers, we have to, in our calculator, we have to do it as I. So I'm going to do this minus 5 plus j25 divided by negative j5. So when entering it in a calculator, first off, especially if you have the ability, you need to make sure to put this in parentheses. So I'm just going back and forth because I can't remember. Minus 5 plus 25, and then I'll just go ahead and do I. Whoops. Divided by minus 5i. I hit J there, 5i. And then hit go. And now it actually will show us how to do some of these steps here, and it gets us down to minus 5 minus I as the final answer, which is what we had. Now they did it in a slightly different order, but that's fine. But basically, we can use this as a calculator to verify that it is. Now, I would not recommend using this to do homework and stuff. I'm just doing it because I can't actually easily show you my graphing calculator, showing the screen there. But I want to point out something here. Notice that I put parentheses around the denominator. That's important on your calculator. So if you don't put parentheses around the denominator on your calculator and the numerator, you will not get the correct answer, because you have to say it's that whole quantity being divided by the whole quantity minus 5i. Because let me just show you here. Let me just show you if I don't put parentheses. Actually, I just won't put parentheses here. So I have 5, what was it? Minus 5 plus minus 5 plus 25i divided by, and you can already see what's happening. I'm not dividing that minus 5 anymore by this. I'm only dividing by the 25. So that's why you need to use parentheses. And not just on this calculator online, but also on your calculator that you would be using at home. All right, so that's dividing numbers using just a purely imaginary. What about dividing complex numbers? So not just purely imaginary, where they're complex. So as an example, we might have I'm just starting to think of a problem here. 10 plus j5 divided by 3 plus j4. Now, this is a much more challenging problem. Again, we're actually not going to do the division, and I'm going to show you how to do this. But I would recommend, when we get to a problem like this, you're going to really want to use your calculator. There's just so many opportunities for us to make mistakes when doing the division like this. It's not that it's hard to do necessarily, it's just there's lots of rooms for us to make mistakes. So the first thing that's going to happen here is, remember that complex conjugate that we talked about at the beginning? That's actually what we're going to multiply by. We're going to multiply by the complex conjugate of the denominator. So similar to what I did previously, but instead of just doing the j, I have to do the complex conjugate. But now you can already see why this is going to kind of be a tedious, somewhat messy problem to do, because I now got to FOIL out two different things here. So I would have in the numerator 10 minus j40 plus j15 minus j squared 20 divided by, now if we use our special product formula, remember there's a special product where you have a plus b times a minus b. This is a squared minus b squared. So I'm going to use that. So this would be 3 squared minus j4 squared. So let's do some simplifying now. So I have 10 minus j40 plus j15. The j squared is negative 1, so that would be plus 20. And that's all divided by 9 minus j squared 16. Now I'll go ahead and erase something here because j squared is negative 1. So that would be actually 9 plus 16. So combining the numerator together, we would have 30 minus j25 divided by 25. And then we'd have 30 divided by 25 minus j 25 divided by 25. 30 divided by 25 would be 1 over, you could reduce this to 1 and 5/25, which would be 1 and 1/5, so that would be, I believe, 1.2. Now, I'm going to double check that because I just did that in my head. Actually, why don't I just double check it right now? 1.2. And minus 25 divided by 25 is clearly just 1. So if we have to do that every single time we're going to do division, that's going to kind of be annoying. So let's go back to our online calculator here and see if we get the same answer. So we had 10 minus, sorry, it was 10 plus 5j. So 10 plus, now remember I have to use I because it's a calculator, divided by, put it in parentheses, 3 plus j4, 4i. Hit enter, and we get 2 minus I. That means I did something wrong here. Did I punch this in wrong? Because I can't multiply. You guys might have caught this error. 3 times 10 is not 10. 3 times 10, and I always joke with my students, I just demonstrated why we probably want to use our calculator in this instance, because it's easy to make a mistake. 3 times 10, of course, is 30. So this would be 30 here. This would be 30, which would change this to 50. And this would be 50, which gets me the 2 minus j. So I just demonstrated to you why we should use our calculators when doing this complex division here. And that's what I'm going to encourage you to do. I am not going to ask you on homework on this kind of problem to do this by hand. I expect you to do this problem using a calculator. Okay, so we'll stop the video here. What we still need to talk about is doing arithmetic in polar form. We talked about how to do arithmetic in rectangular form. We need to do arithmetic in polar form.